interested. On the night that the institutions collapsed in the north, it was one of the last items on BBC Newsnight, barely touched upon, and the news bulletins as well. To a large extent, Britain has already divorced itself from the idea of the North as British. I don't believe it sees the North as British any longer, from its political institutions and right down to society as well. On the other hand, and for all the, and it is true that there are elements of partitionism in the South, for all that, people are still engaged, interested, to a large extent knowledgeable, and it is constantly on the agenda in the political institutions. And the recent episode aside in relation to the DUP and their influence in Westminster, and that was very due to the particular arithmetic, by and large the influence of Unionists and their electorate on the political system in the North is quite marginal. And if anything, the reaction to the part of the DUP in the government has thrown that in the stark repair. Most people in Britain have only recently discovered the existence of the DUP. Currently, Unionists in Ireland remain isolated on the margins of the British system, where they make up less than 2% of the potential electorate. In Ireland, that element of the community that is voting Unionist would make up 20% of the population, would exercise real authority, power and influence, as opposed to being a tiny minority within the British parliamentary system. And that's even aside from any constitutional safeguards that I believe should be in place. By sheer weight of numbers, that tradition and their political priorities and influences would have a significant influence on any state that would follow. And I think whether that would remain a homogenous political bloc, or whether other political parties would seek to gain support from that political bloc or from that section of the electorate, they would have significant influence. The question asked at the outset in relation to a unity referendum, whether a solution or sectarian division. So I suppose there's two major arguments against a unity referendum, or a border poll, such as you may call it. I believe a unity poll, properly structured, with a proper lead-in time and proper dialogue, would allow citizens north and south to participate in an informed, reasonable and respectful dialogue on Irish unity. Now, as I say, the two major arguments, one is on the basis of timing, and that's a fair enough point. I would have a different view, I think very likely to Stevie, in relation to the timing of it. I believe that the dynamics that have been created in recent years means that the fact that you are essentially looking at constitutional change in the North in any event, and because of the changing nature of politics in the North, I believe that the time is now right. I believe that the work must begin towards organising a referendum on Irish unity, and I believe it is a proper and appropriate time. But if the opposition to a referendum on Irish unity is on the basis of timing, then I think it should be explained or outlined when the time might be right, or when that time might occur. I think that is an important contribution and something that clarity needs to be provided on. If it is not on timing, then I think an answer needs to be provided for those who support Irish unity, for those people particularly in the North who support Irish unity. Well, then what is their avenue? If the opposition to a border poll is not on the basis of timing, if it is in principle, outright and altogether, then essentially that is an argument against the status quo, or for the status quo, permanently and ad infinitum. So I think an outline needs to be given on, if now is not the time, when is the time? And if not timing, then what is the conclusion that is going to be had? I suppose just the last point I want to make, though, is, from my point of view, Irish unity is not necessarily the result of a successful, from a Republican point of view, border poll or unity referendum. I believe that is merely a staging post on the journey. I believe it is the constitutional arrangement that can give us the best opportunity of a united Ireland. But I believe that truly united Ireland will only exist when you have achieved cohesive, peaceful Ireland at one with itself, and where you have united communities in a shared, cohesive society. And a united Ireland will not in and of itself achieve that, but I believe that it is a necessary prerequisite.